I'm Andrew.
I'm Melissa.
This is 12 Days of Vlogmas. Now on to the video.
Cheers.
This is Braggin's Adventures. Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew with Braggin's Adventures, and we're going to have 4 days in San Francisco. Now, we arrived, I think, right around 1:30 in the afternoon, but by the time you get your luggage and the Uber and all that stuff, it was at least 3 o'clock by the time we got to Union Square. That's where we were staying, Hotel G. I'll have a review of Hotel G coming out shortly. So what we're going to do for this video is I'm just going to take you through all 4 days in San Francisco in the order that they happen. For things like food and stuff, we're not really going to review it in this video. I'm going to show it to you, sure. But for full in-depth reviews of every bite of food we ate, you're going to have to wait for some other videos that are coming out very soon. Specifically, we're going to do a Foods of San Francisco review. I've got a Chinatown review. I've got a Little Italy review. And then I've got a sourdough comparison video. We ate a bunch of sourdough on this trip, you're going to see. So anyway, here we go. We were staying at Hotel G, which is right next to this Union Square Park here. So we dropped our luggage, and then we were hungry. And we wanted to rush to get to this restaurant before it closed. And because of how long it took for the Uber and the drive up and all that kind of stuff, we were in a rush. So we dropped our luggage, walked quickly through the park, and then up this tunnel, which takes you from Union Square to Chinatown and then eventually to Little Italy. Little Italy is going to be our first stop for these 4 days because we wanted to get up there to try Molinari's delicatessen. So we finally made it up to Little Italy in North Beach, and it is uphill from Union Square, so it's a hefty walk, but not a terrible one. And Molinari Delicatessen. This is a family-owned business. They've been there forever, and I just want to say a couple things. I'll get into a lot of detail when we do the Foods of San Francisco video, but it's packed. It is absolutely packed. It took us an hour. Now, granted, we were probably there about 3:30 in the afternoon, I want to say. So getting close to a mealtime, but I didn't really think that was a mealtime, and we waited a full hour. One other quick thing to note is that you do want to make sure you take a number when you walk in. You're going to see this long line of people and think you just hop in line. You need to have a number. They're not taking people from the line. They're calling numbers, okay? One more thing to note, if you're going to purchase things from around the store along with your sandwiches, they have to scan each item. You just can't be, I'm going to take a bottle of water or a soda or whatever. Make sure you keep that stuff with you when you get up to the register. This place was awesome, guys. We got a couple of sandwiches that we all kind of shared, a couple bottles of water, sodas, a couple of beers. They have a very limited dining area just outside the store, but for the most part, I would count this as a place where we're going to grab the food and then take it somewhere else. We were very fortunate we were able to get this table right out front. They were doing a little bit of construction. It was kind of loud, but we were so hungry, guys. I was getting a little hangry, honestly, because we ate breakfast that morning and then we were on the flight during a meal period, but they don't have meals on Breeze Airlines. By the way, if you haven't checked out our Breeze Airlines review, you can do so. I will link to it in the description below. Not a bad flight, just no food on it. Anyway, so we were starving by this point. We were happy to finally sit down and get food in our system. But I'll tell you what, when we were waiting that hour inside the store, I was real close to just grabbing dried pasta and ripping open that bag and munching on it. Anyway, now that we've eaten a little bit, we took a stroll through Little Italy to head to our next 2 spots, which, shocker, shocker, more food. We had read about many pizza places in San Francisco, and we found 2 that we really wanted to compare. The first stop's Golden Boy Pizza. I think they might have indoor dining, but we went to this grab-and-go window. Guys, this is like the cheapest slice of pizza I think you're ever going to find in San Francisco. It's $3.50 for a slice of cheese, a little bit more for pepperoni. They're good, hearty, the old square slices. They're good pizza, guys. We have a full review for you and a comparison with the next spot, Tony's Coal Fired Pizza and Slice House, which was also very good pizza. Big, old style slices, right? Compared to the square ones. I will review them in depth in that upcoming video, but for now, just know it's good pizza. Neither place has like a dining area for you to sit at outside. So we took the slices just up the street to Washington Square Park, a gorgeous park right there in North Beach, and we enjoyed our slice of pizza while we people watched. And let me tell you, San Francisco is most definitely the place to people watch. After eating these slices of pizza, we did spend some time in Washington Square Park just walking around and doing more people watching. You can see in the background here, there was like a juggling, not a class. Well, it was a class. There were professional jugglers teaching like kids how to juggle. So there was a huge crowd of people just watching that. The weather was perfect on this first day in San Francisco for us. They were cleaning up some kind of a beer festival they were having right next door. So that was a little chaotic. But we had a blast, and then we made sure that after we finished this pizza and hung around Washington Square Park, we walked to the far north end. You can see it in the background there. That is the world famous Saints Peter and Paul Church. Why is it world famous? Well, it's been in numerous movies. You've seen this church. I promise you've seen it. Just Google what it's been in. But yeah, Washington Square Park, cool place to hang out. Definitely check it out. Definitely take a photo in front of the church here. And just enjoy nature. All right, so now we're gonna walk back down through Chinatown to get back to Union Square. We're kind of tired at this point from the travel day. So through Chinatown, we stopped at AA Bakery. There are a ton of Chinatown Chinese bakeries. We ate at thousands of them, but specifically this night. We grabbed a few pastries here to take back to our hotel. Like I said, we were getting pretty tired, so just wanted to get some sleep so we can move on to day 2, right? So, some of these Chinese bakeries I feel like have kind of become tourist attractions in their own right, sure. But I feel like some of them, because of that fact, they may have lost some of their quality. AA Bakery, that is not the case. This place rocked. We got a couple sweet things, a couple savory things. That's one of the savory ones there. You know what? It was delicious. And I was already full by this point in the day from the pizza and the delicatessen. So it wasn't, this is an honest answer that it was delicious. It's not like I was so hungry that anything would have tasted good. Guys, check out AA Bakery for sure in Chinatown. Quick note, we will have a full Chinatown, just a day in Chinatown video. I'll get into more detail, but I do want to give you just a little quick note about it. Did you know it's like the world's oldest Chinatown? Or America's oldest Chinatown, rather? I thought that was pretty cool. It's also one of the largest. It is huge and massive, and if you don't know San Francisco, it is hilly. So if you're entering Chinatown from the south, you're going to be walking uphill. And if you enter from the north, you're going to be walking downhill. And then the side streets, east to west, also go up and downhill. I don't even know how that's possible, but it is. Anyway, we're getting pretty tired. End of day 1. We're going to catch some Z's, and then we will see you tomorrow morning for day 2. Good morning, everybody. It is day 2 here in San Francisco, and we're going to start with breakfast at the Pinecrest Diner. Now, this is a stone's throw away from the hotel we were staying at, Hotel G in Union Square. It is right on the border, kind of Union Square and the Tenderloin District, but still in the good part of town. This is a total locals joint, and I'm going to tell you, the later in the morning you wait to go in, the longer of a line you're going to wait in. We went fairly early, and were able to get a table. But as the morning went on, as we continued our meal, the place got more and more crowded, and then there was a line wrapped outside once we were finished up. So just keep that in mind. You want to hit this place up early. They do have custom sourdough made for them. And from what I remember, it's 2 different sourdoughs. They have this one that they get made for breakfast, to do as toast, and then they have sourdough bowls or whatever that's made for them for like their lunch and dinner. I do hear their lunch and dinner is fantastic. Obviously, we're only there for breakfast, but I've got to tell you, it's a pretty good place to grab a bite to eat. If you're staying in Union Square, you should 100% go grab a bite to eat here. If you're outside of Union Square, kind of up to you if you want to make the trip. After breakfast, we took a little stroll around Union Square. Why? Well, we've got the end goal of getting over to where the transportation hub is so that we can grab a streetcar and take it over to the ferry building. So, walking around Union Square, first off, let me tell you, I feel totally safe walking around Union Square, both daylight and nighttime. It's a lovely town, I gotta say. It's a lot of restaurants, a lot of bars, a lot of hotels, and then a lot of like business buildings with very minimal like what I'm gonna call touristy shopping. There's a CVS and a Walgreens fairly fairly close together, so that made nice. There's a couple liquor stores, that kind of thing. I would personally go buy your booze at the CVS or the Walgreens and not at one of the overpriced liquor stores. That being said, there's not a lot other than eating and drinking to do in Union Square. But we did make our way down to where all the transportation is. Right now, that's the cable car that we're passing right there, one of the cable cars, which we will get to later in the video. But right now, we're going to head down and we're going to grab one of the streetcars to take over to that ferry building. Now, how do we do this? How do we ride cable cars and streetcars and buses and all that kind of stuff? Pretty simple. The Muni Pass offers a $13 per day pass, and it's unlimited on and off of all these transportation services. It basically covers everything but the BART subway. So, well worth every penny, especially in San Francisco, and especially considering that we didn't have a rental car for the first few days. So, your next question is, what's the difference between the streetcar and the cable car? Well, a streetcar runs off of an electrical wires running over the street, and the cable car is pulled by cables under the ground. Super cool differences, and also both very nostalgic. Riding in this thing was one of the coolest things ever. But riding the cable car, obviously, cooler. We'll get to that in a bit, though. First, let's head over to that ferry building that I mentioned. This is a great little dining and shopping hub, but it's also a historical ferry building. You go here, you get your tickets, you're going to leave out one of the gates to take a ferry to various locations around the bay. I thought that was pretty cool. I would have loved to spend more time in here, just, more inside the shops, and doing a little more shopping, but because we're going on a cruise during this period, I didn't want to have to lug things onto the cruise ship and then lug them back off. So minimal shopping here. We probably spent maybe a half hour shopping around here, and then we spent some additional time grabbing a bite to eat here. I highly recommend heading over to the ferry building. Like I said, there are many transportation options to get you over there, regardless of where you are in San Francisco. But I do think it's worth the trip. I especially want to talk about Hog Island Oyster Company. This was a good meal, guys. Now, obviously, you can see it gets pretty crowded. You are going to wait in a line, and the line is in the sun. So just do keep that in mind. We got there fairly early, and it already had this line. They opened at 11 a.m., and I think we were there to get in line at 11:05. So please, just keep that in mind. You will wait in a sunny line. But they had some great food here. We sampled a bunch of it, and like I said before, you're going to get to see a full review of this food in a video next week. But just know it was pretty tasty. All right, on to one of the coolest things. I don't know why I was so fascinated with this, guys, but listen to it. I mean, it's just a neat old mechanical sign. It's accurate. It's showing all the ferry departure times and whatnot. I just thought it was super cool, and I sat here and filmed it for so long, and I just wanted to show you guys a little piece of it. And then they update with little trivia lines. When the ferry schedule is shorter, they'll put little fun trivia at the bottom of it. And I just think that's cool that someone was back there programming that. All right, so we walked a little bit over to grab another streetcar to take up to Chinatown again, because we only briefly touched on Chinatown on day one. We actually wanted to go through Chinatown. So this is more of the non-locals Chinatown area, I'm going to call it. This is more of the touristy part of Chinatown, because again, this is one of the largest Chinatowns in America. They were having a street fair, lots of shops. They do have some local stuff too, but mostly you're going to find all your kitschy shops in this part of Chinatown. We did buy a couple of souvenirs, no big deal. But then we headed up a few blocks and over down an alleyway to locate the Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Company. This is the actual factory where they make them, and yes, you can go inside. Now, you're going to have to wait in a bit of a line, but it does move really quickly. It's not a very big place, so they can't let that many people in, but for the most part, people are looking while they're shopping, like while they're in line to pay for whatever they're buying. That's when they're looking around and doing their filming. No one's just in there gawking. And they're literally that close to you. They are making the fortune cookies right there. And I had no idea that fortune cookies start off flat. I'm slowing this footage down so you can actually see it a little bit. So they come off the line, they're just flat disc, and then she actually folds them and puts the paper in. And I think that's pretty cool. You can also buy the flat disc, just a big bag of those flat discs, and that was pretty tasty too. Anyway, we're gonna walk on through some more Chinatown, and we're gonna head over to the Cable Car Museum. And boy, is that a hefty walk. I do think it's worth it to walk over to the Cable Car Museum, but just know you are gonna be going uphill the entire way. What is the Cable Car Museum? Well, it's exactly what it says. It's a museum about the history of the San Francisco cable cars. But it's also something even cooler than that. It is the actual hub where all the cables in town converge. All the cable cars you see all over town being pulled by these underground cables, this is where they're being pulled to or from. And I was fascinated by this. It's free admission, it's indoors, so it's shaded. There are fans running, so it's slightly cooler than outside on a hot day. It's a nice stop. I highly recommend it, especially if you head downstairs like we did. You're actually underground now, and you can see those motors underground and where the turnarounds are, and how all these cable pulls work, and I was so fascinated by that. All right, up next we're gonna head to Fisherman's Wharf. Now the plan was to take a cable car down here from up by the Cable Car Museum. The problem is, cable cars are really popular in San Francisco. So if you're at a stop that isn't a tourist stop, like we were, which was somewhere in the middle of the route, there's not people getting off the cable car. And if people aren't getting off, there's no space for you to get on. So Alyssa and I decided to just walk down to Fisherman's Wharf. Thankfully, it was down all the way, and we ended up at Sabella and Latour. This has an indoor dining option, and it looked higher end. But we ate at the outside cart. There's a bunch of like crab and lobster carts and booths. This one's owned by that restaurant. And we got ourselves a lobster roll. Was it delicious? Absolutely. Will I give you a full review of it next week? Absolutely. Was it super overpriced? Most definitely, absolutely. But we were starving from the walk all the way from Chinatown down to the wharf, so we enjoyed it. Over to Boudin Bakery. Obviously, this is definitely a tourist spot, but you kind of have to go, don't you? And we also, we're gonna do a sourdough comparison video for you really soon here. I think that one comes out next week as well. So we had to go here because you have to take the most well-known sourdough as part of your comparison. Listen, do I particularly care for Boudin sourdough here at home? I mean, it's okay, it's nothing to write home about. But fresh off the line at the actual bakery in San Francisco, this stuff's pretty tasty. Now there are two lines. If you're just ordering your bread, there's one line for you. That's all you're getting fresh baked bread. But if you want other food and stuff like that, there's a second line. So do make sure you get in the right line. Now, we grabbed a clam chowder bowl in the sourdough because now we get to taste both San Francisco clam chowder and the sourdough. And you know what? It was pretty tasty. This place being a tourist trap, the prices are, I think, they're not terrible. I just think they're slightly higher than they probably would be if this wasn't the tourist trap it is. But, you know, is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? So after we sampled this food, we headed just across the pier here to, I'm gonna butcher this, the Musée Mécanique. It's basically a old arcade museum, and it is a museum. Like, there are placards everywhere where you can learn about the history of these games, but you can also play these games. And I don't know, I saw a video with this in it long before we were going, and I was like, when we go to San Francisco, I've got to go there. That looks freaking rad. And I'm happy we did. It's free admission, and they have change machines so you can make change, and then you can actually play the arcade games while you're inside here. It's a super cool way to kill an hour or 6, depending on how much of a gamer you are. It's also, because it's indoors, it's slightly cooler than it is outside, but it can get a little bit stuffy because of the amount of people that are in there. The nice thing is they have doors at the front of the building and doors at the back that are open, so there is a cross breeze that kind of comes through every now and then that you can kind of feel, and because it's on the water, that cross breeze is slightly cooler. Alright guys, then we walked up the street to Ghirardelli Square. Yes, the Ghirardelli you are thinking of, the candy place. This was a pretty hefty walk from the wharf, but not the worst thing on the planet. I think we're all kind of tired by this point in the day, and it was a fairly warm day in San Francisco, but it is relatively flat to get up here, right up until that last part where you saw on the grassy hill there. If you're in good shape, you'll make it no problem. Now, why did we come here? Honestly, it was one reason and one reason only. I wanted to head this direction because there is a brewery in here that I wanted to try. The San Francisco Brewing Company I heard fantastic things about, and I had to go in and try some of their beer. They're located up on kind of the second floor, for lack of a better word, of this place. Because it's built kind of on a hillside, it's tough to say. It's the first floor if you come from one direction. But they have a full kitchen, full bar inside. It's a cool place, but we wanted to eat outside. So we just grabbed a couple of appetizers and then a flight of beer to share. They had a live band playing like right there, which was super awesome. Although it means that I can't use any of the audio from the footage. But the beers, guys, the beers definitely hold up. Pretty tasty, I'm not gonna lie. If you're up there and you're a beer drinker, I would highly recommend making this part of your itinerary in San Francisco. If you're not a beer drinker but you enjoy live music and pretty tasty food, head over to Ghirardelli Square. There's also shops, so you can do a lot of shopping while you're over there. And then they have obviously the Ghirardelli chocolate experience. I gotta say though, if you're not a huge chocolate lover, calling it an experience is kind of a misnomer. For lack of a better word, it's an ice cream parlor and a chocolate store. There's no real experience there other than waiting in line, if that's an experience. They do still hand out the free samples, but just the amount of people in here and it felt like they wanted you to buy crap constantly. And everyone was just so into that. Like, I have to wait in line. I have to have this ice cream. Anyway, afterwards, Alyssa and I went over to the Buena Vista Cafe, a short walk away from the Ghirardelli Square. Why did we go here? Well, it's the home, allegedly, of the very first Irish coffee. For those of you that don't know, Irish coffee is coffee that you add Irish whiskey to. That's what makes it Irish. But they allegedly created the first recipe for that, and theirs was coffee, their own blended coffee, and then obviously Irish whiskey, and then a cream in there. I don't care if it was the first for real or not, it's delicious. And obviously you can see they're well known for it by the amount of those glasses that they have lined up there. We just went in for this. This is literally the only reason we wanted to stop here. Alyssa's a huge coffee drinker. We're both Irish. We both love our Irish whiskey. So we had to go to the place that said that they were the creators of the Irish coffee. And you know what? It was really good. I highly recommend checking it out if you're over in that area. All right, up next, the moment we were waiting for all day. We are going to finally get on one of these cable cars. You saw how they're pulled when we were over at the Cable Car Museum. Oh, look at this line we have to wait in. We waited about an hour to get on this cable car. Just know that at these turnaround points, the line can be pretty long. But that's conversely relation to all the other stops where the line's not long. It's because people aren't getting off there. So nobody's able to get on there. The two turnarounds is where people are getting on and off, so you are going to wait. Just plan on that, especially if you're at the beginning of the day or the end of the day. I got to tell you, though, this is one of the coolest things I have ever done in my entire life. Hanging off the side of a cable car while it was being pulled, zipping up and down the hills of San Francisco. Stunning, thrilling, also super scary. You can see that other track there next to us. So if another cable car was coming towards us, we were told to all suck it in, as was the other cable car, because you could literally high-five each other. And I actually did at one point. I got permission from our driver, and both cable cars were going super slow. We were at a stop sign. I said, can I high-five them? And he said, yeah, go for it. So that was pretty cool. But seriously, riding the cable car, it's a must-do in San Francisco at least once in your life. I highly recommend it. All right, up next, we are going to head back to our hotel and grab dinner at Corsetti. Now, you don't have to be staying at Hotel G to eat here. They do have a door from outside. It's a new restaurant, and I'm going to call it, it's not, you know what, I am going to call it fine dining. It's a fine dining Italian restaurant. The pricing certainly indicated it was fine dining. This was not a cheap meal by any means, but it sure was tasty. Now, guys, this is not the Olive Garden, okay? You're not going to get like your standard stuff. This is more authentic Italian dishes with better recipes. But they're all good. And you know what? The service here was great. The pours were very generous as far as the alcohol pours went. At least I thought so. They had a full bar, so that was pretty cool. And I also always dig the square ice cubes. But just know, you're not going to get a standard, greasy pepperoni pizza or anything. We had a lovely cioppino here that was very, very tasty and very delicious, very rustic. if you will. And then a few of us got pasta dishes and pizzas. But I mean, look at that pizza. That's not your standard boring cheese pizza from Domino's, right? Super good pastas. Just all in all, a pretty tasty meal. Just know you're gonna spend money when you go here. This is not gonna be one of your cheap eats in San Francisco. And I know our vlog typically tends to focus on cheap eats, but every now and then, guys, we gotta let our hair loose, right? But anyway, great meal. Great way to end day 2. We're all very, very tired, so we are gonna hit the hay, and we're gonna get up bright and early tomorrow to check out day 3 in San Francisco. See you in the morning. Alright guys, good morning. We're going to start day 3 at the Sutter Street Cafe. This is located in Union Square, but it is a bit hard to find, even with Google Maps. It is located inside a parking garage. Well, the entrance is. It is a restaurant that is primarily feeding a medical building, which is what this parking garage is for. So they're only open during the week because obviously the medical building is. And as you can see, it's a very small seating area inside. But this place does made to order exactly the way you want them. Hearty breakfast sandwiches. These are going to blow your Egg McMuffin out of the water. You're going to go in, you're going to order, grab a cup of coffee, whatever you want. We personally took these to go and went back to the Union Square Park to eat them. Only about a block walk. Look at the sandwich though. I mean, it's got everything you want in it. I got bacon, egg, cheese, and a nice, delicious croissant. It was a pretty tasty way to start our day 3, and the price is right here. So I definitely think it's worth checking out if you're in Union Square. I probably wouldn't make the trip over there if I was staying anywhere else in San Francisco, but if you're in Union Square, it's a must-do for sure. All right, we're gonna head over to a super touristy spot called Pier 39. This is gonna be all your tourist knick-knack, paddywhacks, all the super kid shops and restaurants like Hard Rock Cafe. But there are also a couple of bright spots here. Biscoff's Coffee Corner is a great place to grab a cup of coffee and those delicious little Biscoff cookies. Should we call this breakfast number 2 then? It's cookies, right? That doesn't count. Alyssa absolutely loved the cup of coffee here. It's located right near the front of Pier 39, so you can easily grab your coffee on the way into Pier 39 and then have that coffee to drink while you're walking around the pier area. I don't want to disparage Pier 39. It's a perfectly fine place to go. Obviously, if you've never been, you should definitely go once in your life. But it is, above all else, definitely a tourist trap, a tourist spot through and through. It does have some shining wins, though. And the first one I want to talk about is up on the 2nd floor right at the entrance, and it's called the Eagle Cafe. We went here for what we're going to call, well, 3rd breakfast, I guess. Super delicious food. It's a little pricey for what it is, I think, but you're gonna pay those higher prices if you're gonna go to Pier 39. The food, though, was actually really tasty. Good sourdough, nicely cooked eggs, and those potatoes were so well seasoned and flavorful. Absolutely loved them. I don't think anyone at the table really had a complaint, and they've got a full bar inside. So even at breakfast, I was able to get a cocktail. Why? I was actually feeling a little under the weather this day, and I was trying to kick it. So I grabbed myself a whiskey to go with the breakfast, and it paired quite nicely, I have to say. Like I said before, it's slightly overpriced in my opinion, but if you're in the mindset that you're on vacation in a touristy town and you're willing to pay a little bit higher price for something, then you're gonna be just fine as far as that goes. All right, so before we take off from Pier 39 and continue our day, one of the most popular things at Pier 39, besides obviously shopping and eating, is those seals. Now I'm going to give you a tight view of them from up above on the 2nd floor, but if you go down there, they're at certain points of the day, at certain points of the year, hundreds of seals just hanging out down there, and it is pretty cool to see. They're just kind of sunbathing down there. Very cute. Definitely go check them out if you're headed to Pier 39 anyway. All right, we decided to grab one more bite to eat here on Pier 39 because we obviously have not eaten enough yet today, and we're gonna call this lunch, for lack of a better word. We headed down to Chowder's on the 1st floor because, as you know, we will be coming out with a video comparing sourdough in San Francisco, so we had to get a sourdough bread bowl with some of their world famous clam chowder in there, and obviously we're gonna pair that with a beer. I gotta say, you know, this place was actually pretty good. It's kind of like not a walk-up window, but like a walk-up window inside a place. And then they have this little outdoor dining area, and then there is some inside. we opted for outside because we like to people watch. The chowder's pretty darn good, if not super duper hot. And the sourdough held up. You'll find out full reviews on this and the sourdough comparison in that future video. But I gotta tell you, this place was pretty good, and it hit the spot after 3 breakfasts, if you know what I mean. All right, we're gonna leave Pier 39. We're gonna walk up the street. We're gonna head towards the ferry landing for Alcatraz. But before we do, we happen to walk by this place called Louisiana Po' Boy Cafe, and they had a big sign out front that said $5 shots or something like that. So Alyssa and I went in to just grab a little $5 whiskey shot before meeting everybody for the boat over to Alcatraz. Cool little hole in the wall. I'll tell you, it smelled really good in there. So definitely, if you're gonna head that way, grab a bite to eat. Let us know in the comments below what you think about it. All right, it's time to take that boat over to Alcatraz. I do want to mention, if you're not already, please click that subscribe and like button and share our videos on social media to help our channel grow. We sure do appreciate that. And if you haven't already, don't forget we are giving out that $50 Amazon gift card after the 12 days of Vlogmas, so you have to be a subscriber for that. Talk to us over on social media. We love chatting with you guys over there. It's at @bragginsventures across all social media. All right, back to Alcatraz Island. We did not do the tour that's in your headphones. We've been there before. We just walked around and explored kind of on our own. We didn't do anything in particular. I will have a full Alcatraz video that comes out that talks in detail about our time here, but it's always a good time over at Alcatraz. I will never not go to Alcatraz. I absolutely love it over there. I love the history of it and the lure behind it. It's super cool. All right, we're gonna head back to the mainland from Alcatraz, kind of over towards Mission District to a place called Bassa Seafood Express. I heard they have really good poke here, so we wanted to head in and check it out. There's one downfall though. There's absolutely no place to sit and eat. They still have COVID restrictions in place as of September 2023, so they have all their tables blocked off, so you need to get this to go. And we did. We grabbed a shrimp cocktail and some spicy salmon poke, or salmon poke. And we took it over to a nearby park and kind of sat on a bench. It was super windy out, but let me tell you, this made for a nice late afternoon snack. The price is definitely right, and I can't speak highly enough about this place. I highly recommend, if you're anywhere near the Mission District, go check out Bassa Seafood Express. You will not regret it. I know the Mission District offers many places for you to eat, and a lot of it is in the Mexican food genre, but don't skip out on the poke. Everybody loves a little poke, you know what I mean? I can't remember the name of the park we took it to. We just popped the park into Google Maps, and while we were out that way, we also went over to the M5 Industries, which is where they filmed Mythbusters. All right, on to our last stop of the day, Hawaii Drive-In. There's a couple locations, but this is actually still owned by the original owner. This one's over in the Portola district, and they're known for their $3.75 cheeseburger because they have kept it that price for as many years as anyone can remember. So I had to go check out the cheapest cheeseburger in San Francisco. And you know what? It's not a double-double from In-N-Out. It's not one of your Five Guys. It's not going to be gigantic. It fits in your hands, but it's a good cooked cheeseburger. And at $3.75 in San Francisco, you can't really go wrong. On top of that, we tried their spam musubi because it's a Hawaiian place, and why wouldn't we? And then Alyssa grabbed some Simon. The food here is phenomenal. It's a cool little, like, kind of diner you expect to find on the islands, and it's served by Hawaiian people. It's just good food made right. The price is cheap. Yeah, it's a little bit of a drive if you're staying over at the wharf or over by the Presidio or something like that, but it's worth it. This place, I would say, regardless of where you're staying, you should definitely head this direction. After this, we went and checked into our hotel for the next 2 nights. So we're gonna go ahead and call it a night here, and we'll see you for day 4. Good night. All right, guys, good morning. It's day 4, and we're headed to Hashes and Brews for a little bit of breakfast. This place is known for its hashes and its brews. Surprise, surprise. I gotta tell you, though, all the footage from day 4, we honestly are not feeling well at this point. So please forgive us. So I got this thing called the Last Dragon, and I very much misunderstood. I assumed it would have a shot of Jameson, a shot of lager, and Bloody Mary mix inside of a mixed drink, but it's literally a shot of Jameson, a shot of lager, and a shot of the Bloody Mary mix. Very strange, but I was trying to kick whatever I had and have a good day in San Francisco. So I ordered it, I drank it. It is what it is. We did the hash with the little biscuit on the side there. I can't even remember what hashes we got, but Alyssa got one and I got one. They were pretty tasty. I don't really think they were anything to write home about. I feel like if you're going to have the word hash in your restaurant's name, that these should be the most phenomenal hashes I've ever had in my entire life. And I just didn't honestly get that here. They were good, sure, but for the price I was paying, Also, it should be noted, this isn't actually technically in San Francisco. It's in San Bruno, but it's nearby the San Francisco airport. So I'm going to call it part of 4 days in San Francisco, if that's cool with you. Nearby here, there is a very large See's Candies. Normally I wouldn't show you something like this, but I thought it was pretty cool. Always fun to head into a See's Candy shop and check that out. It's not like the ones that you used to find in the mall where it was just like one little counter, very short. This place is absolutely gigantic inside. Locating is a little weird if you're listening to Google Maps because they kind of want to take you in this weird back parking lot that doesn't actually belong to the Seas. It belongs to some industrial complex. But just look for the giant See's Candy sign and point your car towards that, and you'll be good to go. But anyway, pretty cool time in there. Obviously, great place to grab some road snacks for our day ahead as we take the rental car out and about throughout San Francisco. We're going to head now north towards the Presidio because that's our kind of next stop. But before we do, we had to stop and check out the world famous Painted Ladies. Now, if you don't know what the Painted Ladies are, you are sure to recognize these from the intro to Full House. This was the house the Tanners lived in. But Painted Ladies, they're just old homes. They're all touching each other. They're painted bright colors. It's total tourist attraction, but it's just a drive-by. I wouldn't try to find parking, get out, or anything like that. I think that would be a waste of your time. All right, we're going to head over to that Presidio now. Now, the Presidio is just kind of a giant housing, working environment located in a park-like setting. It reminds me a lot of, in Los Angeles, there's a place called Park La Brea, and it's an old military base, which this also is, that's been converted to various different things. So inside the Presidio, there's a wide variety of things for you to see, but very few dining options. And we'll touch base on that just a little bit. The drive, though, through the Presidio is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look how tall these trees are. It's obviously a little foggy today. We had great weather in San Francisco up to this point, and then suddenly that famous San Francisco fog kind of hit us. The first place that we're going to go head to right now is Lucasfilm. I mean, if you're in San Francisco and you don't go check out Lucasfilm, are you even really in San Francisco? Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but you can actually go inside Lucasfilm in a very minimal capacity. And I do just want to say that when you were there, the security guard was super duper friendly, but the guy inside was kind of a jerk. I mean, he really did turn me off to the whole thing. And I was already not feeling well, and I was kind of in a bad mood anyway, and he just put me over the top. I will say that in this lot that we're about to turn into where Lucasfilm is, there's also a Starbucks in there, though, so if you're looking for your morning Java, you can grab one there. And there are beautiful views of various points of San Francisco from here. But one of the coolest things at Lucasfilm is, and it's so cool, it literally pops up on its own location on Google Maps, like next to Lucasfilm, and it's the Yoda statue. And this is really the only reason I wanted to go here. I didn't even know you could go inside at this point. It wasn't until the security guard at the entrance gate was like, by the way, you can go inside. And there's a cool little museum I'm going to show you right now. But I put this on the itinerary just so I could see this Yoda statue and take a photo in front of it. And you know what? It alone was worth the trip. I got to stand in front of Yoda, and that was pretty cool. It's nothing fancy, guys. It really is just the Yoda statue you see, but I had a good time being in front of it, and Alyssa and I out there in the little sprinkles of the rain. Took a couple of photos, and then we did go inside. We took the security guard's advice, but like I said, the dude inside was so rude. They're really strict about filming in here. You're allowed to take still photos, but you're not supposed to film. So I'm gonna cut the camera off here and just show you a couple of photos that we took. There's just cool little memorabilia in here, some little plaques you can read, you can hang out. It's the lobby to Lucasfilm, but the guy that's in there, like kind of, you know, I guess checking security badges for who gets to go back, he probably shouldn't be in customer service in any way, shape, or form. And that was kind of a bummer. But look at all these cool statues. Total and complete dedication to everything that Lucasfilm has ever done. And it's always nice to see little icons from the movies you grew up watching. So after this, we're going to head over to the Palace of Fine Arts. This is still in the Presidio, believe it or not. And why did I have to go here? One reason and one reason only. The Rock was the very first R-rated movie I ever saw in a movie theater, and I saw it with my dad. And I distinctly remember the scene that takes place here because Sean Connery's character is running from the police, and Nicolas Cage's character tracked him down, and he meets his daughter here. And obviously they shot it in a way where cars were really close inside here, and we were trying to figure out what angles they shot from to make it look like the cars drove up. But it was just cool to be in this spot where both Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery were once, from my very first R-rated film in the theater. It's also just stunningly gorgeous in here. I mean, we spent quite a long time just walking around here and admiring this architecture and checking out some of the greenery around here and the water features as well. Super cool place to check out. I highly recommend it. It doesn't cost anything. Your only issue is going to be finding parking, so just keep that in mind. Up next, also still within the Presidio, is the Walt Disney Family Museum. Now, before we go inside here, I do want to say I think it's a little pricey for what it is. And my kids did too, because they walked in, saw the price, turned around, walked out, and waited in the car for us to go through and experience it. And I agree, after the fact, yes, it's cool. If you're a Disney-phile, you should absolutely do it one time in your life. But be prepared to spend the money on that, you know what I mean? It's not a cheap place to go hang out for the day. Is it cool? Absolutely. And they also have a second building that rotates what's inside of it. Currently, it had Cats and Dogs, which was a total monument to the cats and dogs of Disney animation history. And I'm going to show you that in just a minute, but I want to walk through the main building first. It's a lot of historical information thrown at you back to back to back. You could probably spend a good 6 hours in here and not see anything twice if you're into reading and you're into history and you're into Disney. I wasn't feeling too terribly well, like I've mentioned, so I kind of zipped through here as quick as I possibly could to get back outside in some fresh air. But there were certain parts where I stopped and I spent the time to read some of these plaques and this history and look at some of these toys from my childhood and then from my parents' childhood and even my grandparents when they were young adults. Super cool. This huge model of Disneyland was one of my favorite spots in the museum. It's 2 stories. It's a lot of walking around. They do have elevator service if you have difficulty, and there is one restroom located down on the bottom floor and then one up on the main level as well. And then we went out, walked out. It's kind of a walk to get to the second building. It's an afterthought building, if you will. But we went and checked out the Cats and Dogs, and you know I'm not going to let you get out of here with showing you my favorite dog, Max, from The Little Mermaid. So here was his little area. But it was a lot of this. It was artwork from each thing, and then certain rooms had interactive elements, which I actually thought was really cool and kind of made that portion of it, because this was an add-on charge to the main museum, it made that portion of it worth it. These little interactive things that you could do. Don't worry, those are disposable, like paper noodles, so that you can recreate this scene and then you toss them out. You're not reusing something somebody else's mouth was on. Just thought it was a pretty cool thing to check out. And then afterwards, they were having some kind of food truck fair right outside the museum. And we knew we wanted a bite to eat before we headed to our next spot. So we walked up and down to check out these food trucks. I'm not going to really review a whole lot of this because I don't know what food trucks will be there, if any, when you go. Just know this was one of the very few dining options located within the Presidio. They may have different food trucks there every day, especially during the week when people are working in some of the offices. but we got this little Mediterranean dish. It was pretty good. It hit the spot. We just needed to put some food in us before we headed to our next spot, because we got to do a total bucket list item. What was it? We walked across the Golden Gate Bridge. That's right, we walked it. It's about 1.7 miles one way. What we did is we had the rental car. We were with my parents, and they dropped us off at the entrance, and then they drove the bridge, and we met them on the other side and then headed on to our next stop. I gotta tell you, walking across the Golden Gate Bridge, one of my most favorite experiences in my life, especially considering the fact that Alyssa and I got to do it together. We could pause, we could check out the view, not that there was much of one on a cloudy day, but we could see some stuff, and just the experience of doing it. I will tell you, it's one of the loudest things I've ever done. You've got all that vehicle traffic going past you, but it was absolutely just a fantastic experience. Who doesn't know the Golden Gate Bridge? It's been in literally hundreds of films and television shows, and just being able to stand on it and walk across it and feel the pulse of it. Seriously, guys, if you get the chance and you're physically able to do the 1.7 miles, highly recommend. Now, this was under construction. They were adding some safety features and such, and doing some upgrades and whatnot. So some of the parts weren't the prettiest for this particular trip, but maybe that'll all be done by the time you go. Either way, I highly recommend it. Doesn't matter what, if it's foggy or if it's sunny out, put some sunscreen and a hat on, or just wear a coat, but you have to do it. All right, next we're gonna head the drive up to Muir Woods. This is on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. So my parents picked us up, jumped in the car, and kept driving a little further. We wanted to head over to Muir Woods and check it out. There is a small admission fee, but it's a per vehicle admission fee called a reservation fee. And you do need to book that in advance. It's highly, highly recommended that you book that in advance, because those lots were full. Thankfully, we had a handicap placard with us, so we were able to park right up front. One of the coolest places, I mean, it reminded me a lot of, honestly, being in Hawaii in the lower part of Haleakala National Park, but obviously different flora. Just walking through it was so beautiful, guys. I can't stress that enough. We pretty much walked into the back and then turned around and walked out. There's a bunch of side spur trails and then some more adventurous trails you can do, but for the most part, stick with that wooden bridge and you'll have a good time. All right, guys, our next stop is going to be the Pineapple King Bakery. We had to stop here because we saw YouTube videos about it and it sounded absolutely delicious. So we did a little drive-by and grabbed a variety pack of some stuff from there. Most of it, absolutely delicious. There were a couple things I was like, this is weird, but that's more of a cultural issue than a taste issue. They do take cash only, though. Please do keep that in mind. Make sure you have your cash on you. And just know, the line can be very, very long for this place. We got right in there at a good time and didn't have to wait too long. But excellent stop. Definitely want to check that out next time you're there. We had a little bit of time to kill before dinner, so we headed over to a place called Blackthorn, which is a little bar. Definite locals joint. But the service was super friendly, and it was just a cool little bar to hang out in for a minute and grab a drink before dinner. Pours were generous, beverages were good. I've got no complaints here. It was a good way to start dinner, for lack of a better word. And speaking of which, we headed over to Santung for dinner. This is a very well-known Chinese restaurant in the community, and very crowded at that. They do not have a very large dining room, so you may be waiting for quite some time. I will say it looked to me like the service staff maintained friendliness while pushing speed. They did seem to have a pretty decent turnaround as far as getting tables out there. That being said, we were seated at this large table that was big enough for our entire group, but we were so close to the tables around us, like only one of us could have a chair pulled out at a time kind of thing. Don't ask, I just thought this shot was really cool. There's a big lazy Susan, because it's family style here, in the middle of the table, so I set my camera on it and spun it around. Anyway, like I said, it is family style here, so figure out what you want to order with your friends or your dining party, and make sure everybody's going to get a little something that they like. Throw it on that lazy Susan in the middle, you spin it around, and enjoy. Man, that place was good. I want to eat more of those sticky wings right there. That's technically the end of day 4, but we did wake up on day 5 before our flight home and just grabbed a quick bite to eat at the airport. That's San Francisco in 4 days, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next adventure. Hey everybody, Andrew from Braggins Adventures, and I wanted to take a quick moment to remind you to make sure you click subscribe and ring that notification bell. Why? Because we're giving out a $50 gift card to one lucky subscriber for Amazon.com. Now, to make this contest happen, we have to hit 400 subscribers by January 5th. So make sure you tell your friends to come on over and click that subscribe button.